How are you all doing? So first of all, thank you all for coming. I have the great pleasure of introducing our next president, Vivek Ramaswamy.
It's good to be here, guys. I love New Hampshire, and thank you for making such a nice day for us. We really enjoyed that, and I want to thank our hosts also for making their house available. Hopefully it's still not, hopefully we didn't start a fire in there. I was doing an interview with Al Sharpton. So I think there's no fires left over from it. But the truth is, one of the things I love about New Hampshire is one of the ways we're treating this entire campaign. Let's have open conversations. Let's take the filters off, actually. Left, right, libertarian, doesn't matter, old, young. We all have to start talking openly again. You want to know the best measure of the health of American democracy? It's not the number of ballots we cast every November. That's just the final act at the end of the process. The true measure of our country's health is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. Right now we're doing poorly. We can all do better. The only way we're going to do it is all of us, not just me, all of us starting to talk openly again. This young man's expressing himself. I'm glad. He's already getting started. How old is this guy? 9 months. Oh, thank you. Give me the youngest guest I've ever had at an event so far. Give that guy, give that old man. My older son was with me, my two sons were with me, but they were already fading out, so this guy's already made it longer than they did, or they would have been here with this event too. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My parents came to this country 40 years ago with no money. In a single generation, I've gone on to found multiple multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That's the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that American dream will not exist for my 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it, all of us. Step up right now, because today we're in the middle of a national identity crisis. Faith, patriotism, hard work, family. These things have disappeared, only to be replaced by new secular cults, actually. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, globalism, Zelenskyism, the newest one, right? But it's not just political cults. New poisons of different kinds, depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide. Do you think it's an accident that we see the rise of these same syndromes at the same time? It is not. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. I say this as a young person. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president, certainly as a Republican. Thank you, I appreciate that. 38 years old. I was born in 1985. And I'll tell you what's going on in our generation. See, we are hungry for a cause. We are starved for purpose and meaning and identity at a time in our national history when the things that used to fill that void, belief in God, belief in country, belief in self, these things have disappeared. And that's what leaves that black hole in our hearts. And when you have a black hole that runs that deep, that is when those poisons fill the void. As odd as this might sound for me to say, though, I think this is actually our opportunity. Not just as conservatives, as Americans. to step up and fill that void with our vision of American national identity that runs so deep that it dilutes these woke agendas to irrelevance. You see, for a long time, we got to do this. This is our time, guys. The opportunity presents itself. Do we step up and seize it? The left is very good at this, by the way. They will fill that void with race, gender, sexuality, climate, fear. What I want is for us to fill that void with our own vision, grounded in the value of each individual, the family, the nation, God. Individual, family, nation, God, that beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. For a long time, we have been running from something. Now is our moment to actually start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American today. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the ideals of the American Revolution. The ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago in places not that far from where we are right now. Ideals like meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence, that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why I've said we will end affirmative action in every area of American life. It has been a cancer on our national soul, and we will put an end to it. We are done with it. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the rule of law. That if you're like my parents, you get to come to this country legally, through the front door. If you want to follow the rules, pay your taxes. They raised 2 kids, both of us, who went on to found companies that helped thousands of Americans. But it also means that your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. I think, yeah, there we go. He's like, saying don't break that law, we're going to run you right through. So that's what it means to be American, right? We embrace the rule of law. That's what unites us as Americans. That's why I said I would use our own military to secure not somebody else's border halfway around the world, but our own southern border in this country, and if necessary, our northern border too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law. Both, absolutely. It's like a water balloon, right? You squeeze at the southern border, it's going to squirt up to the northern border unless we seal our borders in this country. What does it mean to be American? It means we believe in this radical dream that our founding fathers had 250 years ago. A radical dream that I have as a citizen today. That the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government.
Yes.
Not this deep state shadow government that actually runs the show today with those 3-letter government agencies. So if I can't work for you all as the taxpayer for more than 8 years, which I think is a good thing, then neither should those federal bureaucrats who report into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. That's what it means to actually drain the swamp. That's how you do it. And by the way, if there are government agencies that should not exist because they've become so corrupted, so far abandoned their original purpose, from the FBI to the IRS to the ATF to the CDC to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to the U.S. Department of Education, to, you know what? 75% of the employees of the FDA, for that matter. We're not just going to incrementally tinker around the edges. We're going to get in there and shut it down. That is how you revive the integrity of a 3-branch constitutional republic. See, these aren't even Democrat ideas or Republican ideas. They're not black ideas or white ideas. These are fundamentally American ideals that we fought a revolution to secure in 1776. And I think that is the true choice that we face in this GOP primary. Do you want incremental reform? Or do you want revolution? I stand on the side of the American Revolution. I stand on the side of those 1776 ideals that we need to revive today. I think we live in a 1776 moment in this country where we have to remind ourselves that we create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That we, the people, sort out our differences through free speech and open debate in a constitutional republic where every citizen's voice and vote counts equally. Not in the back of palace halls in old world England. Not in the back of BlackRock's corner office in Manhattan today. Not in the back of three-letter government agency buildings in Washington, D.C. No, we the people create a government that reports back to us. We require a government that once again goes back to telling us the truth instead of lying about the basis for the 2008 bailouts, lying about the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was, lies to us about the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic, lies to us about the Hunter Biden laptop story on the eve of an election, lies to us about that Nashville transgender shooter manifesto that they have still not yet released, lies to us now about how our own money is being spent in Ukraine. They think we the people can't handle the truth. I stand for the proposition that, you know what, we the people, we can handle the truth. We demand the truth. We require a government that once again just tells us the truth again in this country. See, I think this is possible if we think on the timescales of history. You know, for me, November 2024, January 2025, when I take office, that's not the destination. That is the start line. The destination for me is January 2033. When I leave office after 2 terms, what do I want to tell you all that we actually did in this country? I want to tell you that once again in January 2033, that we have 3 branches of government in this country, not 4, that we shut down the administrative state, that we laid off 75% of all federal employees. I believe that is possible in the next 8 years. I'll make that by the end of the first term. I want to tell you that we in this country are no longer dependent on our enemy, communist China, for our modern way of life, for the shoes on our feet to the phones in our pockets. We've declared independence in this country. I want to tell you that our economy is once again growing at the fastest rate in the developed world because we embrace capitalism instead of apologizing for it. We embrace American energy in this country. We drill, we frack, we burn coal, we embrace nuclear energy. We no longer pay people more to stay at home instead of to go to work. I believe that is possible. But most of all, I want to tell you, in January 2033, when I leave office, that my 2 sons and their generation, that they are once again proud to be citizens of this nation. See, we have a crisis of national pride in this country. 16% or less of Gen Z says they're even proud to be American. 60% of young Americans say that they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. I'm not making this up. This is the stuff of national crisis in pride. We have to revive that sense of pride in our country. Every kid who graduates from high school should have to pass the same civics test that my own mother, that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. You got to have skin in the game to play in the game. That's what we need, is a civic revival in this country. See, I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. I believe deep in my bones that those ideals still exist. I am running for president to revive them. And the only way we're going to do it is by doing what I said at the very beginning. Not just me, all of us. Starting to speak the truth again in this country. Say in public what you will say in private at the dinner table. When you're the only person in that room who believes what you do, you have a civic obligation, now more than ever, to stand up and actually say it. Speak the truth to your kids, to your parents, to your colleagues. And you know what you're going to find? When you thought you were the only person in that room who believed what you did, you will discover that you were not the only person in that room. Fear has been infectious. Courage can be contagious too. It just requires more of us willing to exhibit that courage in this country. Let's do it today. Let's speak the truth. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thank you. God bless you. God bless your family. Thank you for the warm welcome. May God bless our United States of America. Let us open this up and have a conversation. Do not fear. Start that epidemic of courage. It starts right here, right now. We're opening this up. So we got a microphone here. Don't be shy. I'm excited to hear from you. Please. The gentleman with the red shirt. We can start with you.
I see on number 10, it says U.S. Constitution. I got a two-pronged question. U.S. Constitution, strongest guarantor. I love your energy. I think you're a great guy. I disagree with that statement. I think our Second Amendment is stronger because without the Second Amendment, they're already.
So we're going to vehemently agree on this.
They're already going.
Because the Second Amendment is a critical part of the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution does not exist without the Second Amendment.
Totally.
It is the one amendment that protects all of the others.
Totally.
Right. So I give credit to the whole Constitution because we put it on the shoulders of the Second Amendment.
I knew he was going to outsmart me.
Remember, the Constitution, the rest of the Constitution stands on the shoulders of the Second Amendment. That's the way it works.
Yes.
That's exactly right. It's the one amendment that makes the other ones count. And I applaud you for it.
May I just ask this one more time?
Yeah.
With all the politicians with foreign relations and as far as not being truthful and full of sophistry, would you pledge to be keeping us honorable as a country with the relations with other countries?
I will, absolutely. Now, I'll answer this question even more directly because I don't want to. I hate it when politicians skate around issues. I'm not a politician. I guess I've been one for 6 months, so maybe it's in the blood now. But here's what I would say. I favor quickly getting to peace in Ukraine without investing further resources because I believe we have already honored the requirements of the Budapest Memorandum. I think we're out of compliance with a commitment we made in 1990. James Baker made a commitment to Gorbachev, which said that NATO would not expand not 1 inch east of Germany. So I do not think that Ukraine should join NATO. We should honor our commitments. But what I don't like is the selective honoring of a Budapest Memorandum that we have honored, while just pretending like the 1990 commitment never existed in the first place. And the thing that shocks me is I'm the only one in our party, certainly, and maybe we'll give RFK some credit in the Democrat Party, but short of that, nobody else in either party is really having the courage to speak the truth when it comes to foreign policy. And I think I'm the only candidate in this race that knows how to actually declare economic independence from China and Taiwan and avoid World War III in the process. And I worry we are skating dangerously close to World War III The only way I expect to be a wartime president is if Joe Biden sleepwalks us into war before I walk into the Oval Office. And even then, my focus is going to be de-escalation if we get there, because we have to protect our homeland and the interests of our own citizens in this country. And I do not want to make the same mistake of sending our sons and daughters to die in somebody else's war. No, we will sooner use our own military capabilities to secure our own borders, to protect against cyber and super EMP and nuclear missile attacks that our country is vulnerable to as we speak. That's the real truth of the matter. And I believe that we say speak the truth when it's hard. I don't say this often on the campaign trail, but since you brought up the question, you got me on this here. I think it's just worth speaking a hard truth. If we enter a nuclear conflict or a serious conflict with the combination of the Russia-China alliance, and we are driving Russia further into China's arms every day we engage in Ukraine, I think we're at serious risk that the United States of America, as we know it, could cease to exist. And I know that's uncomfortable, and you don't hear that usually. It might sound weird. You know, what's this guy saying? If you do the math on the nuclear capabilities, the hypersonic missile capabilities, China's naval capacity, our economic dependence on China, that is not hyperbole, guys. That is where we are now. And so we have a foreign policy establishment, right? Many of them are saying that, oh, I don't have foreign policy experience. Look what foreign policy experience got us to.
Right.
If that's experience, that's not the experience, kind of experience I want. Right, I want to fortify this country. That's what we're going to need to move this nation forward. Thank you for that question, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, my mother also had to go through the immigration and take the test and everything else. What is the plan for those millions of people that just walked across the border and now a part of we're paying for them?
Yeah.
And is there a plan?
Right. So there is a plan. This is a hard question. I'm not going to give you some facile answer. This is a hard question. And I want to start with making an observation of what makes it really hard. I don't blame many of those families for coming on a personal level, because put yourself or put ourselves in their shoes. They see a U.S. president that's given them a wink and a nod, saying that we really don't have borders that matter in this country, so come on over. And, you know, forget the cartel people. I mean, that's a big problem, and I have a big problem with that. But a father who has 2 sons, who says, I might have a better life for my kids, and that guy is telling me, whoever's in charge of that country, that I can kind of quietly come on over. I don't hold it against him for being a bad person. Maybe we would have made the same decision if we were in the same shoes. That being said, we are a nation founded on the rule of law. That means amnesty is not an option, and that every one of those families must be returned to their country of origin. That is the only answer that stands for the rule of law. We will be compassionate. We will be respectful. We will do it honorably. One thing I will never do, even though it creates a deterrence factor, I will never separate parents from their children. I'm a pro-family person. We will take the entire family unit and relocate them with dignity to their country of origin, but that's the only way this can go, or else we are just opening ourselves for a precedent in this country that continues to abandon the rule of law, and I refuse to do that. Thank you. I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to New Hampshire.
Thank you. I love being here.
A lot of people may know this, but I bet you a lot don't. In our Constitution, it says up in the front, if the government does not serve the needs of the people, we're required to get a new government as a New Hampshire citizen. That's a requirement. And so there's some resonance for your talk about making change in New Hampshire in particular. So I'd love to discuss with you how to actually untangle with China. I have a lot of experience there from my 40 years working in Silicon Valley. It's a bigger question. It's easy to say, we're going to decouple. It's really hard. So I thought I'd ask a simpler question. And your idea of downsizing some of these agencies was good. But could you make a commitment for something very simple, which is consequences. See, right now, the people running the show, there's no consequences. They came to power after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The tree has been growing to the sky ever since. So they think we're immutable. They think that nothing bad can happen because nothing bad ever happened to me. So you can lie with impunity to Congress. Well, you might be big enough to be able to do that. I can't. It's a felony. I go to jail for 5 years. So I'd like to see
accountability.
I'd like to see a commitment. And all the companies I worked in the Valley succeeded because of direct personal accountability, not the peanut butter of firing the whole agency, but when somebody lies under oath, fire them.
Yeah, so look,
You have the ability to do that, even if they're in the DOJ, because the DOJ works for you. You
I
can
agree with
say
that.
you're fired.
So here's one thing that tripped. This is worth getting into the technical details because I agree with everything you say except for saying it's peanut butter to shut down the agency because I think that is the answer for two reasons. One is I think that we sometimes fall into the trap of actually thinking that it was an individual bad actor when it's not. It's the system and the machine. I actually think it's the reverse, where
It's a corrosive organization.
it's a corrosive monster. It is the Leviathan that Thomas Hobbes envisioned 400 years ago. And so you got to dismantle the whole thing. And if you just replace Christopher Wray for the next James Comey or whoever else, the machine still exists. And so part of why I say you got to go to the root cause is the machine itself. There's a legal reason why too. So this is where they tripped up Trump. They duped him. They said the civil service protections stop you from firing those people. And in some sense, you can disagree with the law or not, but the law says, okay, you can't fire individual employees. The law does not apply to mass layoffs. And mass layoffs are absolutely what I am bringing to the DC bureaucracy. So that's what it takes, is you got to be grounded in the law and the Constitution of this country. This takes a unique combination to get done, right? It takes an outsider with sharp elbows who's going to break glass, who has complete, total disregard and scorn, as I do, for the way things are done in that DC bureaucracy.